11 years of dedication disappeared in less than 5 minutes. Sitting across from Brandon Parker at his desk, I watched his satisfied smile as he handed me the termination letter. His spotless suit stood in contrast to my shocked expression. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get more stories like this. Rachel, we're restructuring the department. Your position doesn't exist anymore, he said while twirling a pen between his fingers. HR has already got your paperwork ready. You can clear off your desk today. I was facing the founder's son, newly appointed as CEO, after his dad slowed down the pace of work. Brandon, who's 32 and flaunting an MBA, was getting rid of old baggage, as I overheard someone in the hallway. Can I ask what's really behind this? I built the service department from scratch, and our satisfaction ratings have never been higher. We need fresh blood and new ideas, he replied while checking his watch. I've got another meeting in 2 minutes. I left the office carrying a box with my belongings. 11 years of projects, recognition, and professional relationships reduced to a few personal items. At reception, co-workers avoided eye contact, except for Melissa, who gave me a quick hug. He's doing this to everyone who was close with his dad, she whispered. It's nothing personal. But it was personal. I had always been loyal to Mr. Parker. He valued my work, while Brandon saw me as part of the old regime. 3 days later, my cell phone rang. It was Ashley, my former colleague. Rachel, you won't believe it. Brandon's losing his mind. He found out about the Kingswell clause. Kingswell, the most important account, making up 40% of the company's annual revenue. What clause? The contract you negotiated last year. It has a clause that says only you are allowed to handle the annual negotiations. Brandon didn't even read the contract before firing you. I took a deep breath. The renewal was set for next week. Mitchell, the CEO of Kingswell, was extremely careful about who he did business with. It took me years to earn his trust. What is Brandon trying to do? He tried calling Mitchell, but Mitchell refused to speak with him. He said he only talks to Rachel Collins. That night I got another call, from an unknown number. Rachel. This is Edward Parker. The founder, Brandon's father. My heart started racing. Mr. Parker, how are you? Furious. My son made an unforgivable mistake by firing you. I just found out about the Kingswell contract. Yes, Mitchell insisted on that clause. I need you to come back. Immediately. Kingswell is vital for us. I hesitated. With all due respect, your son made it clear he doesn't want me there. Brandon will have to accept it. I'm offering you a 30% raise, a return bonus, and a 2-year contract guarantee. I'm still the board chairman. The offer was tempting, but coming back meant working every day with someone who fired me without justification. I need to think about it, Mr. Parker. Mitchell called insisting he speaks with you by tomorrow, or he'll cancel the contract. There are millions on the line, Rachel. Please. The next morning, I went back. Brandon didn't come to meet me. My desk was exactly as it had been, as if no one had even dared to touch it. Ashley hugged me when I walked in. Welcome back. You have no idea what a mess it's been the last few days. Mr. Parker personally came to thank me, ignoring the curious looks. The meeting with Mitchell is scheduled for 2 p.m. Brandon will be there, but only as an observer. In the conference room, Mitchell smiled when he saw me. Rachel, I'm glad we'll continue working together. I ran the meeting professionally, presenting the new terms I had prepared before I was fired. Brandon sat quietly in the corner, his face shifting between embarrassment and anger. Mitchell signed the renewed contract, which increased the value by 15%. I'm only closing this deal because of you, Rachel, Mitchell said as he left. Trust is everything in this business. After everyone left, Brandon came over. This isn't over. You might be back, but it won't last. His eyes were full of resentment. That low-key threat marked the beginning of something I still didn't fully understand. The week after the Kingswell contract was closed, small things started happening. First, I noticed changes in documents I had prepared. Numbers were tweaked just a little, dates were switched, and some subtle details that might easily go unnoticed were changed, details I knew too well to ignore. One Monday, I got to work early and found my computer on, even though I was sure I'd shut it down on Friday. I immediately changed my password and started saving backups of all my important files on a flash drive that I carried with me. During a presentation for the marketing team, some slides I'd finished the night before came up with incorrect information, making it seem like I didn't have a grip on the project numbers. Sorry, it looks like there was an unauthorized change in the presentation, I explained calmly as I corrected the numbers verbally. I saw Brandon smiling discreetly at the back of the room. It wasn't paranoia, it was planned sabotage. Important emails started disappearing from my inbox. Meetings were rescheduled without my knowledge. One morning, I discovered that my name had been removed from an initiative I had created. It's weird you're not on this project, Rachel, Diane from the finance department commented. It was your idea from the start. Yeah, it really is strange, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Rather than reacting impulsively, I began to document every incident. I kept a detailed diary with dates, times, witnesses, and exact descriptions of what happened. I took photos of documents before and after changes, and I saved screenshots of important emails as soon as I got them. Ashley noticed my cautious behavior. Brandon's been coming in way early lately, she whispered during lunch. And he always asks about you in meetings when you're not there. He's trying to make me look incompetent, I said. Or push me until I give up. Why don't you talk to Mr. Parker? I shook my head. I need solid proof first. I don't want it to look like I'm stirring up a family feud between father and son. Things got worse when I started hearing rumors about me. Supposedly, I had been criticizing the leadership in emails and making disparaging remarks about colleagues, things that never came out of my mouth. On a Tuesday, Jonathan from HR approached me. Rachel, we need to talk about some complaints we've received about you. What kind of complaints? I asked, staying composed. Apparently you've been bad-mouthing other departments in emails and demeaning the new direction of the company. That's completely false. Can I see those emails? Jonathan looked uncomfortable. Brandon asked for confidentiality in handling this. I see. So I'm being accused without a chance to defend myself. That night, I stayed up late reviewing my records. The sabotage was escalating, and I needed to act smartly. I wrote a detailed email to myself documenting every incident, and set it up to send automatically if anything happened. The next morning, I got a message from Mitchell at Kingswell. Rachel, I just got an email from you suggesting a 25% increase in our contract rates. That completely contradicts what we agreed on a few weeks back. What's going on? My stomach sank. Someone had sent an email in my name. Mitchell, I didn't send that email. It looks like someone is pretending to be me. Could you forward the email so I can check? The fake email was almost perfect, except for a few small details that didn't match my style. I called Mitchell immediately to explain. I'm dealing with some internal issues. Someone is deliberately trying to ruin my reputation. I understand, Mitchell replied after a moment. We know how you work, Rachel. That email just doesn't seem like you. That attempt at sabotage had crossed a dangerous line. Faking communication with a client was not just unethical, it was potentially illegal. I decided to set up a meeting with Mr. Parker. I had to act before the damage became irreversible. I hate to bring this up, sir, I began as I placed my file of evidence on the table. But I'm being systematically sabotaged at the company. Mr. Parker frowned. What kind of sabotage? I methodically presented my evidence, altered documents, fake emails, meetings rescheduled without notice, unauthorized access to my computer, and finally, the fake communication with Kingswell. This is extremely serious, he said as he examined the documents. Do you have any idea who might be behind this? I hesitated. I have my suspicions, but I'd rather let an impartial investigation figure out who's responsible. I didn't need to mention Brandon. Mr. Parker's expression made it clear he had already made the connection. I'll request a full internal audit, he decided. Eric from compliance will lead the investigation. Meanwhile, we're going to put extra security measures on your computer and access. The next week, Eric set up in a room near mine. His detailed work started revealing a disturbing pattern. Access logs showed entries using my login at times when I wasn't even in the building. Document metadata revealed changes made from specific computers. Eric called me for a private meeting. Rachel, we've pinpointed where the changes are coming from, he said, showing me technical reports. Most of it is directly coming from Brandon Parker's computer. Some of it was done by Lisa from the IT department, but always after she received direct emails from him. I nodded without surprise. What happens now? I'll present my findings to Mr. Parker tomorrow. He's asked for your presence. The meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. in the main conference room. I arrived 15 minutes early, mentally preparing myself. I didn't want to come off as vindictive or triumphant, just professional. Brandon walked in looking visibly irritated. What's this nonsense, Dad? I've got 3 important meetings today. Please, have a seat, Brandon, Mr. Parker ordered in a tone I rarely heard from him. Eric has some findings to share with us. Eric methodically presented his evidence. System logs, access records, document metadata, recovered emails, everything pointed directly to Brandon. The evidence was undeniable. This is ridiculous, Brandon protested when Eric finished. Obviously, you manipulated these details to pin it all on me. The server logs are tamper-proof, Eric replied calmly. And we have independent cloud backups that confirm everything. Brandon turned to me, his face twisted with anger. You planned this from the start, didn't you? You came back, just to destroy me. I kept my composure. I just wanted to do my job, Brandon. I never intended for any of this conflict. Mr. Parker looked visibly shaken. Brandon, you faked corporate documents, access to co-workers' computer without permission, and most seriously, faked communication with our top client. This could be considered fraud. You don't understand, Brandon said as he stood up. She was always your favorite. Everyone knows you trust her more than your own son. Trust is earned, Mr. Parker replied. And you just completely broke mine. Eric cleared his throat uncomfortably. Mr. Parker, I must inform you that these documented actions are serious violations of our internal policies, and potentially even the law. As compliance officer, I have to recommend disciplinary measures. I understand, Mr. Parker said heavily. Brandon, you're suspended from your duties until further notice. Please hand over your badge and your corporate password to Eric now. You can't do that. Brandon protested. I'm the CEO. And I'm the chairman of the board and the majority shareholder, Mr. Parker answered. The suspension is effective immediately until the board decides on the next steps. Brandon looked at me with pure hatred before tossing his badge on the table and storming out. The silence that followed was almost tangible. Mr. Parker seemed to have aged 10 years in 1 hour. "Rachel, I'm truly sorry for all you've been through," he finally said. "I can't find adequate words to explain both my disappointment and my gratitude for how dignified you remained throughout this." "Thank you, sir. Eric will continue the investigation to ensure that every attempt of sabotage is identified and fixed. In the meantime, we need to stabilize the company." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. I had won, but at an enormous emotional cost. And I knew the repercussions of that day were only just beginning. 2 weeks after Brandon's suspension, the board called an extraordinary meeting. I was asked to come and present my side of the story. I prepared meticulously, gathering all the documentation and organizing the facts in order. The meeting room on the top floor was quiet when I walked in. 8 board members, including Mr. Parker, were seated around a massive mahogany table. I recognized a few faces from earlier corporate events, but I had never interacted directly with most of them. "Ms. Collins, thank you for coming," began Margaret Wilson, the vice president of the board. "Even though today's circumstances are quite unfortunate, I gave my account in a professional and straightforward manner, avoiding any dramatics or emotional accusations. I showed the evidence I had collected, the detailed logs I'd kept, and Eric's final investigation report. At no point was I seeking revenge," I concluded. "My only goal was to protect my work and the reputation I built over 11 years at this company." Mr. Parker, who had been quiet during my presentation, finally spoke. "The board has already received the full audit report, and it confirms everything you've just shared." Brandon was also given a chance to defend himself, but he couldn't counter the technical evidence. Margaret nodded gravely. "After careful deliberation, the board has decided to permanently terminate Brandon Parker's contract. The documented actions not only violate our code of ethics, but also several corporate regulations." A wave of mixed emotions hit me, relief, of course, but also sadness for Mr. Parker's family situation. "This leaves us with a gap in our executive leadership," Margaret continued. "And it brings us to the second item on today's agenda." Richard Ferreira, another board member, leaned forward. "Rachel, your conduct throughout this ordeal has demonstrated exactly the kind of integrity and resilience we value. Moreover, your track record in growing the service department and your rapport with clients speak for themselves." Mr. Parker took over. "The board has unanimously voted to create a new executive position, Director of Customer Strategy. We would like to offer this position to you, with a seat on the executive committee and direct reporting to the board." I was momentarily at a loss for words. The promotion was a leap across several levels of the hierarchy. "I'm honored by the offer," I finally replied. "But I'm sure there are more senior executives who—" "No one with your proven track record," Margaret interrupted. "And no one who has shown such unwavering principles in the face of adversity. We need to rebuild not only our leadership, but also the culture of this company." After discussing the details of the position, responsibilities, and compensation, I accepted the offer. As I left the room, Mr. Parker asked to speak with me privately. "Rachel, I know this doesn't erase what happened," he said when we were alone. "As a father, I'm devastated. As a businessman, I'm determined to set things right. I understand, Mr. Parker. I truly feel sorry for everything that happened. Don't apologize. The fault isn't yours." He looked older and worn, yet resolute. "Brandon will have to face the consequences of his choices. In the meantime, we have a company to rebuild. And I can't think of anyone better to help me with that mission." The next day, an official memo was sent to all employees announcing my appointment as Director of Customer Strategy. The feedback was surprisingly positive. Many of my colleagues had noticed the sabotage campaign and were relieved with the outcome. Ashley hugged me when I arrived at the office. Finally, Justice. You deserve this more than anyone. Thank you. But now the real work starts. My first week as an executive was intense. I held one-on-one meetings with each department head, evaluated our existing processes, and started mapping areas for improvement. I quickly realized that the climate of fear created by Brandon had spread further than I had imagined. During a marketing team meeting, Lisa, a junior analyst, hesitantly raised her hand. Can I ask a sincere question? What's really going to change? Because in the past few months, we learned that questioning decisions, or pointing out problems, could cost us our jobs. That was exactly the kind of conversation we needed to have. I understand your concerns, Lisa, and I appreciate your courage in speaking up, I replied. I'm here to make sure this never happens again. We need to build an environment where integrity matters more than just hierarchy. In the following weeks, I implemented several structural changes. First, I set up a direct communication channel where employees could report unethical behavior without fear of retaliation. I established an ethics committee with representatives from various departments and hierarchical levels. I also overhauled the performance evaluation process, removing metrics that encouraged toxic behaviors and introducing leadership reviews where subordinates could provide feedback about their managers. Mr. Parker fully supported my initiatives, often offering valuable input based on his experience. Our professional partnership grew stronger, built on mutual respect and a shared vision. 3 months after my promotion, Mitchell from Kingswell invited me to lunch. Rachel, it's amazing what you're building, he commented. The changes are so clear that even we outside can see them. We're still in the early stages, I replied. But I've got an extraordinary team supporting every step. Did you know that other companies in our industry are talking about your transformation? Some are even considering adopting similar models. That surprised me. I had been so focused on the internal changes that I hadn't considered the external impact. These kinds of cultural changes are exactly what our industry needs, Mitchell continued. In fact, we're expanding into 3 new markets next year. I'd like Parker to be our exclusive partner for that expansion. That opportunity was significant. It could potentially double our current contract with Kingswell. It would be an honor, Mitchell. I'll put together a tailored proposal for each market. I returned to the office energized. Walking past the service department I had built from scratch, I paused to admire the smooth operation. Melissa, now the department manager, was guiding new hires with the same dedication I once showed. How's the transition going? I asked. Surprisingly smooth, she replied. Your structures and processes are so solid they pretty much run on autopilot. But we sure miss you. I'm still around, I smiled. Just with a different perspective now. That afternoon, during a meeting with my newly formed executive team, I shared the news about Kingswell and the expansion opportunity. This is just the beginning, I said, looking at their motivated faces. When we operate with integrity and excellence, growth happens naturally. Carlos, our new Chief Financial Officer, raised an interesting point. What do we do if we encounter resistance to the new culture? There are still some managers stuck in the old ways. Transparency and consistency, I answered. We can't force a mindset change, but we can clearly demonstrate that the new way brings better results. People naturally gravitate toward what works. 6 months after my promotion, Mr. Parker announced his complete retirement. At his farewell party, he called me over for a special toast. To Rachel Collins, he said, raising his glass. The one who taught me that a company's true legacy isn't its products or profits, but the integrity of its actions and the character of its leaders. Emotional, I raised my glass in return. To Mr. Parker, who built the foundation on which all of us can grow. Later that night, he handed me an envelope. "Only open this when you get home," he instructed. Inside was a handwritten letter and legal documents. The letter expressed his gratitude for what I had done for the company and his confidence in my future leadership. The documents revealed something surprising. He had transferred a significant portion of his shares to me, effectively making me one of the company's major shareholders. To ensure that the values we rebuilt together endure, the letter read. And to remind everyone that true leadership doesn't come from surnames or titles, but from character and everyday actions. The next morning, looking out the window from my new office, I reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past few months. From an unjust firing to an executive leadership role, from despair to institutional transformation. The experience taught me that integrity isn't just an empty corporate buzzword, it's a powerful force that, when applied consistently, can transform not only individual careers, but entire organizational cultures. Right then, my desk phone rang. It was Ashley. "Rachel, you won't believe it. We just got 3 partnership proposals from companies that had never even reached out to us before. They all specifically mentioned our new leadership approach as the deciding factor." I smiled. "It looks like we've done more than just save a company, Ashley. Maybe we're helping change an entire industry." Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get more stories like this. And that, I realized, was the true value of integrity in the corporate world. It's not just about surviving adversity, but about creating a new paradigm where success and ethics go hand in hand. A legacy far more meaningful than I ever imagined building.